Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this 16th of September Council meeting. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the change of date to avoid holding two council meetings during the election period, and I thank everybody for accepting that change and appreciate your flexibility. Could you please turn your mobile phones to silent? Firstly, I'll do acknowledgement to country. Basco Shire Council acknowledges the Bunurong as the traditional owners and custodians of the land and water, and pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging, for they hold the memory, the tradition, the culture and the law. Basco Shire Council celebrates the opportunity to embrace and empower Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities in their diversity. Basco Shire Council will create opportunities for future recognition and respectful partnerships that will honour the traditional owners and custodians and Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Will Councillor Bauer please read the Councillor's statement?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. All members of this council pledge to the Basco Shire community to consider every item listed on this agenda based on the individual merits of each item, without bias or prejudice, by maintaining an open mind and disregarding councillors' personal interests so as to avoid any conflict with our public duty. Any councillor having a conflict of interest in an item will make a proper prior disclosure to the meeting and will not participate in the debate or the vote on the issue.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer. Item 1, President, and apologies, all councillors are present at this afternoon's meeting. Declarations of interest. I've had no declared declarations of interest. Item 3.1 is council meeting, the council confirmation of the minutes for the council meeting held on the 21st of August. Thank you, Councillor Bauer, for move, and seconder, Councillor Ellis, thank you. Those in favour receive those minutes. Councillor Lark, I can't see if you're voting.
I am. I've got my hand up.
Can you put it in front of the camera, please?
There is. Yeah. There it is.
That's carried. Thank you. Mayor and councillor reports will forego speaking to the reports on this monthly report at this meeting because they'll go through to the minutes as per usual. Thank you. We'll get to public question time. Ms Borley, will you please read the questions? All councillors have been circulated with the questions, and Mr Box will read the response. Thank you. Ms Borley.
Thank you, Mayor. Question 1 comes from Peter Fogarty, and the topic is investing in developments. Does council have any system or process in place to identify persons, companies, entities who are investing capital into large-scale developments with the nominated developers?
Through the Mayor, council is not required to monitor or report against investors in private development companies.
Question 2 comes from Graham Jolly, and the topic is Hilton Chadwick Reserve. What are the constraints stopping council from constructing a new sporting oval during the 25-26 year, costing approximately $4 million to $5 million on council-owned land known as the Hilton Chadwick Reserve, as identified in the council's Phillip Island Recreation Master Plan 2023?
Through the Mayor, capital works projects within the Shire are guided by council's adopted 10-year long-term financial plan, 2021 to 31. Currently, the actions identified in the Phillip Island Recreation Reserve Master Plan, adopted in September 2023, are not included in the long-term financial plan. The long-term financial plan is scheduled for review in 2025.
Question 3 comes from Melissa Dagg, and the topic is also Hilton Chadwick Reserve. Why is council speaking of a name for the carnival land council owns once the land is rezoned to public recreational, when as an adjoining property connecting already has a name, being the Hilton Chadwick Reserve? Both land lots would automatically be the one reserve, the Hilton Chadwick Reserve.
Through the Mayor, council is not currently considering a naming process for the land on the corner of Phillip Island Road and Ventnor Road.
Question 4 comes from Bill Wilson, and the topic is renaming of the Cowes Cultural and Community Centre. Council obtained 3 names from the Bunurong Land Council Aboriginal Corporation for the renaming of the Cowes Cultural and Community Centre. One name was Burnanee, the registered name. How much money did it cost Council for the 3 names obtained from the Corporation?
Through the Mayor, Council collaborated with the Bunurong Land Council Aboriginal Corporation during the renaming process for the Cows Cultural and Community Centre. The total cost to Council for obtaining what were 4 proposed names was $1,650.
Question 5 comes from Ernie Westergaard and the topic is Burnaneit Library numbers. Would Council please provide the attendance numbers to the library at the Cows Cultural and Community Centre?
Through the Mayor, for the 6 months from January to June 2024, there were 44,868 visits to the library. In July 2024, there were 7,452 visits for the month. At the current rate of visitation, the new library is expected to be double that of the old library within the first year.
Question 6 is from Johnny Cantone and the topic is budget. How do councils justify $1.05 billion from 35,000 ratepayers over 10 years with no visible improvements in Bass Coast? Additionally, how can Bass Coast Council justify over 10 years employee expense $303 million in annual wages? How will they ensure ratepayer funds are used effectively for future progress?
Through the Mayor, the 10-year long-term financial plan funds several significant intergenerational projects, including the new Burnaneit Cultural and Community Centre, the redevelopment of Guide Park and major upgrades to marine infrastructure. As the asset manager of the Shire's drainage, roads and recreational infrastructure, Council is obliged to ensure that the asset network is maintained in an optimal condition. Council's labour-related costs of $37 million over the 10 years is among the lowest in the large rural Shire group of councils. The long-term financial plan will be reviewed and updated in 2025 and will consider community feedback and input.
Question 7 comes from Mario Boffa and the topic is Special Charge Scheme SBSB. Were the Island Ward councillors or the councillor group given suggested instructions not to attend or conduct community meetings with the Sunderland Bay Surf Beach residents during the period of the overall initial special charge scheme was being proposed that in the end failed to get a majority vote?
Through the Mayor, no. Further details on community engagement are available on the project page at Engage Bass Coast.
Question 8 comes from Ernie Westergaard and the topic is art. Why is Council seeking to buy additional art when Council's range of art, a mural and 2 tapestries, are held in locations across the Shire and outside the Shire but not at Burnaneit in Cows? Why?
Through the Mayor, the Public Art Commission to be delivered in Cows this financial year is the final outcome from the Public Arts Sites and Themes Plan 2014 to 2024. Created following extensive community consultation, the plan's key purpose is to distribute the public art commissioning process across the Shire. Over the plan's life cycle, it has delivered art outcomes for Kilcunda, San Remo, Coronella, Bass Valley and Hinterland, Kernot, Cape Patterson, Newhaven and Wonthaggi.
Question 9 comes from Joe Warrilow and the topic is membership fees. Council held paid memberships with multiple organisations during the year 23-24. Would Council please provide a listing of organisations Council was a paid-up member and their membership fees? Through
the Mayor, Council was a financial member of 20 organisations during the 2023-24 at a total cost of $81,455. A full breakdown will be provided in the minutes.
Question 10 comes from John Trite and the topic is Growing Regional Program. As councillors are aware of the federal $600 million Growing Regional Program, this is funding for pools and sporting ovals to support community livability. Surf Coast Shire announced construction of a pool for completion in 2026. Are our council officers working towards a grant submission for a pool or sporting ovals?
Through the Mayor, no, the council contribution required for this program is not in the current budget. Following the adoption of the Phillip Island Recreation Reserve Master Plan, future funding is subject to review of Council's long-term financial plan.
Question 11 and question 12 both have a similar topic and will receive one response. Question 11 comes from John Trite. The topic is Carnival Site. Will Council start rezoning the Carnival Site now so that they are shovel ready if they were successful in obtaining a federal grant to build a pool or sporting facilities? Question 12 comes from Andrew Marston and the topic is Phillip Island facilities. Phillip Island has waited years for a swimming pool. Their football club desperately needs more ovals. Dogs in Bass Coast have fewer safe exercise spaces than just about anywhere in Australia. Council purchased 80 acres of land for recreation. When will you honour your commitment and rezone to facilitate progress?
Through the Mayor, rezoning of the site is not required for progress to occur. Rezoning is a medium-term action in the adopted master plan. It is anticipated that this process will occur in approximately 10 years.
Question 13 also comes from Andrew Marston, and the topic is Cowes Recreation Reserve. What funding applications has Council made to state and federal sources to assist the development of recreation facilities at the Cowes Recreation Reserve? And if none, when will applications be made so that the community can use the land you have purchased for them?
Through the Mayor, currently no funding applications have been submitted to state or federal grant programs for the development of recreation facilities at the Cowes Recreation Reserve. Grant applications typically require a financial contribution from the Council, and at this stage the projects identified in the Phillip Island Recreation Reserve Master Plan are not included in Council's budget. Future funding is subject to review of Council's long-term financial plan.
Question 14 comes from Philip Davey, and the topic is rental fees. The Mayor in her statement claims Bernanite has become a hive of activity, bringing people together to celebrate arts, culture and community connection. Why doesn't Council embrace these words with lower rental fees to fully utilise all rooms of the building with local art and culture, etc. on display?
Through the Mayor, the standard hire fees for Bernanite are very competitive compared with other cultural facilities. In addition, Council provides a 50% subsidy for community groups, schools, dance groups, not-for-profit organisations, cultural organisations and individual professional artists to encourage community use.
Question 15 also comes from Philip Davey, and the topic is community consultations. In the 2023-2024 financial year, please name the public face-to-face meetings between senior council staff and residents or ratepayers that were conducted in an endeavour to find an amicable solution to all parties for council concept plans, i.e. Thompsons Avenue redevelopment and Surf Beach special charge scheme.
Through the Mayor, the Cowes Streetscape Master Plan was adopted in December 2022 and involved extensive community consultation, including 3,584 views on Council's Engage Bass Coast dedicated webpage, 3 drop-in sessions with over 100 people attending, and extensive consultation with traders. Community consultation for the proposed Surf Beach special charge scheme was conducted in line with the statutory process.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Ms Borley. Thank you, Mr Box. We'll move on to item 6, notices of motion. There are no notices of motion. Item 7.1 is the petition to receive the urban roads and drainage upgrade for Jam Jarrett. Do I have a councillor to move? Councillor Holstead. Councillor to second. Councillor Ellis. Councillor Holstead.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. We seem to be having quite a lot of these petitions come through council chamber of late, which to me only goes to call out the policy that we recently adopted that will allow community to progress on smaller size projects, and Jam Jarrett is one of those that has been waiting for a while. So I'm really happy for the community there that they have gathered together enough support to again have council come and go through that process, and so therefore I'm really happy with the recommendation. And I know that we were receiving a lot of questions around Surf Beach and Sunderland Bay, and we are also receiving a lot of petitions from that area as well. So it's great that people want to take advantage of that and take off, you know, bite-sized projects and get a better quality of life for them and their families. So thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm really happy to see this petition come before us.
Thank you, Councillor Holstead. Councillor Ellis.
I fully concur with Councillor Holstead's comments there. I go to Jam Jarrett a lot as one of their local councillors, and I often wonder why they've got a bitumen road that leads to the edge of town and then town's a dirt road. I think there's a lot of catching up to do in a number of towns across Western Port. I commend the petition.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Ellis. Is there any other councillors wishing to speak to their petition? Put it to Councillor Holstead.
Happy to put to the vote. Thanks, Madam
That to the vote. Councillors in favour of receiving the petition? Thank you. That's carried. We move on to reports requiring council decision. 8.1 is the 31 Fisher Street Ventnor application. Ms Taylor, will you introduce, please?
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present to Council an application for 2 dwellings on a 2-lot subdivision and removal of vegetation at 31 Fisher Street in Ventnor. The application was advertised and 24 objections were received. The concerns of objectors have been considered and it is recommended that a notice of decision to issue a planning permit be issued. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms Taylor. Councillor Rooks?
I'd like to put forward an alternative, please.
Thank you, Councillor Rooks. Have I got Councillor Rooks? Have I got a councillor to second that? Councillor Bauer? Councillor Rooks, do you want to speak to the alternate recommendation? Yep.
In full, or just to mention what my alternative's about?
It's been received, so we can speak to it. Yep, we've received it, so you can speak in full to the recommendation of the alternate, and then Councillor Bauer will have it.
Thank you, Mayor Laserve. Yeah, I wanted to put this forward as a refusal based on our adoption of the Bass Coast Housing Strategy that Council adopted in July 2024. The Bass Coast Housing Strategy is a document that we've produced which looks at our growth across the Bass Coast Shire as far as housing goes over the next 15 years. And it also importantly looks at what sort of changes we want to see across the Bass Coast over the next 15 years in each of the towns. Some towns we're looking for minimal change, some towns we're looking for incremental, and some towns we're looking for substantial change. And this was a great piece of work that's been recently done by the council officers and given clarity to a lot of the towns of Bass Coast about how they want to see their town look in the future. For Ventnor, it was minimal change. That's what was supported by the local residents and put in the report. And minimal change is areas where subdivisions and multi-dwelling developments should be discouraged. So this sort of planning application is exactly what the Ventnor Township does not want and is what is listed as not necessarily what the strategy wants either. I think the Ventnor people are happy with their low to medium density living township. So there were 24 people that opposed this subdivision who were still wanting minimal change in their area. In the future, the Bass Coast Housing Strategy, along with a few other strategies, will become part of hopefully our planning process in the planning scheme through our residential development framework, which will enforce these sort of policies better. But for now, the Ventnor community have told us twice now that they don't want these sort of subdivisions or multi-dwellings in their area. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rooks. Councillor Bauer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, fellow councillors and ratepayers watching this meeting. I fully concur with what Councillor Rooks has just said, and it's quite true about the community feedback. This is another one of those projects where the applicant has gone for broke by trying to build as much as possible on the site. This is not the type of development we want to see in Millar Phillip Island. I think this application needs to be drastically reworked so that it is sympathetic to the expectations and the environment of Ventnor. I support the alternate motion.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer. Councillor Holstead?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Council's been limited in its ability to influence planning decisions with significant changes to legislation that really have stripped back the power for council to block developments where our community is expressing a dislike. That's why it was so important for us to adopt a neighbourhood character study and a housing policy, which has given us a few tools to at least push back on developments that are attacking neighbourhood character. So I congratulate Councillor Rooks in using those policies to at least try to represent his community of Ventnor, who are obviously not happy with this proposal. With 24 objections, that's a significant number of objections for council to receive. So I congratulate him on bringing it forward and using the policy that we adopted for the reason that it was brought to council for adoption. So congratulations, and I will be supporting the alternative. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any other councillors wishing to speak to the alternate motion? Councillor Whelan.
Just want to support the speakers that have already gone on the neighbourhood character in particular. I continue and will leave this place unhappy with the cookie cutter approach that the planning scheme leads us to in these sorts of things. It doesn't take into account the quality of development and where we want to see that development, which is what the neighbourhood character assessment does. It says, yeah, sure, we have to accommodate growth in Bass Coast, and this is the places it should be. So what we have is developer-led changes that keep eating away at the crust of the character of places like Phillip Island, but also in the wider Bass Coast. It annoys me, and it's frustrating that the planning scheme is like that. We have to have rules. I appreciate that. We have to have some objectivity, except the planning scheme doesn't give us that, in my view. It just puts into a place an underlying assumption of supporting development. I'm not against development. Development should be targeted. And we see a densification occurring in those townships that are best able to handle it. And then we also, at that same time, must be making sure that the infrastructure is able to handle in those areas. And that's what we don't get in the small places when we have what I'd consider ad hoc sorts of developments, is that the infrastructure isn't there, puts a load on the infrastructure. We start getting streets crowded out with caravans and with boats and all the rest of it, because the smaller the blocks get, the smaller they are from accommodating that in these otherwise more rural areas. So it is, unfortunately, goes against the neighbourhood character. I think the community has well indicated its concern at this development, and this nature of development is more the point in these areas. As I say, we're not against that in the places that we're looking to see that densification occurring. Of course, we're going to have the same arguments when it does happen there, but we need to be mindful that that's the places where we're actually saying, okay, that's where we need to accommodate more people, and we'll have the infrastructure and the amenity that supports those people. Are we going to do that in Ventnor? I suggest not. So therefore, it has a corollary effect in terms of how we make these decisions.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Whelan. Councillor Tessari.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I won't use quite as big of words as Councillor Whelan just used. But I do agree with, in principle, with a lot of things that he did just talk about. One, you can quite obviously see that this will alter the character of the area quite considerably. Also, unintended consequences of lack of infrastructure, as touched on by Councillor Whelan. I don't go as far as blaming the planners because they are governed by a pretty black and white set of rules. Do they need to be altered? Possibly. Can we do that? Yes, but at the moment they can only go by what's there. So as a councillor, we get to take in all the information and we get to make our educated decision on whether we support it or we don't. And on this occasion, I'll be supporting Councillor Brooks' alternative.
Thank you. Any other councillors wishing to speak to the alternate recommendation? Councillors are quite clear this is an alternate to refuse the application. I'll put it back to Councillor Rooks. Councillor Rooks,
Nothing
close?
further there. Nothing further there. Put it to the vote.
Thank you. Put it to the vote. Those councillors in favour of refusing the application? Thank you. That's carried. 8.2 is a planning section 72 amendment application to 46 McCaffey's Lane, Ventnor. Ms Taylor.
Thank you, Mayor. The purposes of this report is for Council to consider an amendment to a planning permit previously issued at 46 McCaffey's Lane in Ventnor. The property is currently used as a small-scale function centre and 3 accommodation cabins are located on site. This application is for 1 additional cabin. The application was publicly advertised and 16 objections have been received. Objectors' concerns have been considered and it is assessed that the application is consistent with the requirements of the Bass Coast Planning Scheme, and on this basis it is recommended that a notice of decision to issue a planning permit be issued. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms Taylor. Is there a councillor who would like to move the recommendation? Sorry. Oh, Councillor Rooks, sorry. Yep. Seconder?
Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Rooks?
Thanks, Mayor Laserve. This is an ongoing operation in the rural zone of Ventnor, and it's been going for a number of years now and is quite a successful business. It's only had one complaint, and I think this should be noted in that period. It's had one complaint over that period, and that complaint was for noise. And it was actually in the end a false complaint in the sense it was a private function. It wasn't to do with the actual operation of the business itself. So it's working well at the moment. The business. This amendment does add just one cabin. However, it doesn't change anything else to the original planning permit that was provided. The extra cabin will not be seen from the road, and it's about 1 kilometre away from the coastline. So I'm happy to support this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rooks. Councillor Bauer?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, fellow councillors and ratepayers watching this meeting. I have walked this property subject to this application, and this type of experience is what we want for our tourists to enjoy. This is the city meets the country. This is the type of ecotourism we should be supporting. I have no problem in supporting this application.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer. Any other councillors wishing to speak to the recommendation? No? Thank you. I'll put that back to Councillor Brooks. Put to a vote, or have you something further to say?
Nothing further to add.
Sorry, no speaking from the floor. Thank you. Sorry, excuse me. Sorry. Councillor Rooks?
Nothing further to add.
Nothing further to add. I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour of the recommendation? Thank you. That's carried. 8.3, Open Space Pathway Asset Management Plan. Ms Taylor, will you please introduce the report?
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present to Council the Open Space and Pathway Asset Management Plan for consideration. Council has over 17,000 open space and pathway assets that serve several important municipal functions, contributing to our sense of place and connection. The Open Space and Pathways Asset Management Plan outlines the target levels of service and required funding to manage Council's existing open space and pathway assets. The report recommends adoption of the Open Space and Pathways Asset Management Plan. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms Taylor. Councillor recommend to receive the report. Councillor Holstead. A second to the recommendation. Councillor Tessari. Councillor Holstead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's great to see these plans coming before Council, this one being the last of 4 that will ensure the integrity of our assets. I see these plans as critical that Council invest in. The community expects a high standard of our footpaths, our assets, and I think that there has been, I guess, a balancing of our budget to try and cover a great deal of work, and maybe we haven't been putting enough into our assets. So I'm really pleased that these plans are coming before us, and it's my hope that the next council will see to increase the budget for our asset management plan. I think there's a request in this plan for an extra $150,000 per annum. I think that's a bit light on, but I'm happy to support any extra funding that will go into ensuring that our assets remain at a reasonable standard, and that pathways are also, as we know, there's a lot of pathways in the Shire that could do with a bit of work, so that pathways are also included in that. So I congratulate the work that's been done by the team in this plan, and I will be supporting the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Holstead. Councillor Tessari.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree with a lot of what Councillor Holstead just said. This is sort of back to basics a little bit for Council. It's a lot of work put together by our staff, and I congratulate them on the work that has been put together. One thing that you do here, as we continue to push our community to get outside and be more active, is we need better footpaths and better looked after footpaths. So this is a great piece of work. I look forward to it coming to fruition, I guess, in the near future. And I totally agree with the recommendation. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Tessari. Any other councillors wishing to speak to the recommendation? Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to highlight that the Pathways and Asset Management Plan the Open Space and Pathways Asset Management Plan, there's been a few, covers playgrounds and sports field in those open space areas. And it covers what we currently have in our assets, not potential future builds of playgrounds or footpaths. And so I just wanted to recognise that potentially there may be a gap in footpaths or more open spaces that we require, but they are not covered by this open space plan. It's also really positive to see the amount of work that has gone into understanding what it is that we need to maintain, what it looks like. Is it a bollard? Is it a piece of footpath? Everything has been mapped out by these plans. It's an incredible amount of work from our council officers. So if you look at the overall open space and pathway assets, 70%, almost 71% of the total asset value is in very good or good condition according to those metrics that are used across councils for asset management. So just wanted to highlight that and hope that the good work continues.
Good, thank you, Councillor Lang. Any other councillors wishing to speak to the recommendation? Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, fellow councillors and ratepayers watching this meeting. What a comprehensive report in the attachments. Congratulations to the team that put it together. Management of our assets is a key role of council. The recommendations in the report asking for is a modest increase of less than $150,000 a year. With population growth, this should be an achievable target, and I fully wholeheartedly support the report.
Good, thank you. Any other councillors wishing to speak to the recommendation? No? Councillor Holstead, would you like to finish?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to pick up on Councillor Lang mentioning that this plan doesn't cover future builds, and she's very correct in saying that, but I would also call for the progression of the Cows Recreational Master Plan, because our sporting clubs are absolutely bulging at the seams and there is a real need in that space. So I just wanted to add, yes, that this particular plan doesn't include future builds, but I'd love to see council putting a little bit of attention in that space. But in relation to the open space pathways and asset management plan, who would knock it back? Any money that's spent on our assets and our open spaces, it's what our community wants to see. It's absolutely a return to the core responsibilities of council, and I'm really excited and hope that we will see in the next council that these projects progress. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Holstead. I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour of the recommendation? Thank you, that's carried. 8.4, Destination Gippsland Partnership. Mr Werner, can you please introduce the report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report seeks to extend the existing partnership Council has with Destination Gippsland through to the 31st of December 2025. Destination Gippsland is a state-recognised regional tourism board which Council has had a formal partnership with since the board's inception in 2008. Council also has an existing partnership with Destination Phillip Island, which also was recently extended through to the 31st of December 2025. Having a common date with the two regional tourism boards will enable a more coordinated approach for any changes to visitor economy partnerships that are currently being reviewed by the state government.
Good, thank you, Mr Werner. Do I have a councillor to move? Councillor Lang and then Councillor Holstead to second.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just I think it's the Destination Gippsland is a very long-standing partnership which reinforces one of our principal economic drivers, which is the tourism industry. It's underpinned by the economic development framework that Council endorsed during this council term, and its ongoing partnership with the community needs to be recognised. Destination Gippsland work really hard with our local tourism associations to really tailor the work that they do. It's an investment in the right space for council. They also have an excellent Events Gippsland operation as part of Destination Gippsland, which supports local businesses or community members who would like to run major events to also continue to boost our economy. It's a long-standing partnership. It's tried and tested. It works. I've heard nothing but positive feedback from tourism associations about the work that they've done with them and continue to do. So I wholly endorse this partnership.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Councillor Holstead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm happy to support the recommendation. However, I would like to encourage the state to progress with the 2019 review of the visitor economy partnerships. Council should continue to support Bass Coast industry at our current or increased budgeted level. However, our resources to be across two partnerships, I think, is unfair, given there is no other local government in the state that has this requirement. These partnerships do create efficiency and collaboration opportunities, Madam Mayor, and I got to see firsthand the wonderful work of Destination Phillip Island last week at their well-attended information-packed industry forum. Supporting this recommendation will align the Gippsland Partnership renewal with the Destination Phillip Island renewal, and it is hoped that this will allow another 12 months, which will be in total 6 years, for the state government to address what I believe is a very unfair system for Bass Coast at the moment. And I look forward to them finally coming up with a resolution, and hopefully it will mean that Bass Coast will have one representative group that is doing all of the same work, possibly more. Of course, we support our businesses and tourism. Tourism is absolutely the cornerstone of our economy. I just think that we need to do it better, and we're waiting on the outcome of this 2019 review from the state, which a lot of these reviews, Madam Mayor, seem to be taking a very, very long time to get results on. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Holstead. Any other councillor wishing to speak to the recommendation? No? Take that. Mark or Councillor Whelan?
I agree with what Councillor Holstead said, but I think it needs a bit more meat on the bone. Is that I was on the board of DPI 8 years ago, and they were under threat then from review, and review is, you know, you've got to work out what in fact is happening here, and I don't think it's necessary. The government is looking at a cookie cutter, I've used that term twice today, approach to this. In other words, trying to get at least 6 local government areas into a destination board. And I actually think we need to turn this around to a more functional approach. And that functional approach is what would benefit this region. And in that context, I take Phillip Island, the rest of Bass Coast and South Gippsland into consideration when you think about this coastal region here into the hills with our farm gate and wine and food offerings. And we need something that really addresses the interests of our businesses here, not something that addresses the bureaucratic structures that might come out of Spring Street. So just say as a word of caution that reviews don't always turn up the best outcomes in terms of business benefits, business efficiencies and those sorts of things. So we need to be mindful of that and make sure that we here at Bass Coast work with our neighbours, both directions, across the water and also across that great divide just the other side of Envelope with South Gippsland, and look for an outcome that really suits us here. Destination Phillip Island do a great job, as do Destination Gippsland, but we're at the end of the range for Destination Gippsland, whereas with central focus for DPI, at least we are for that part of the Bass Coast. So we need to be very mindful of that and make sure that the stewardship continues to get the best outcome for Bass Coast and for the wider immediate region here.
Thank you, Councillor Whelan. Any other councillors wishing to speak to the recommendation? If not, we'll put it back to Councillor Lang. Anything further to say?
Nothing further, thank you.
We'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? Thank you. That's carried. 8.5, Wonthaggi Cemetery and San Remo Cemetery abstract accounts. Ms Pauly, can you introduce the report?
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present the abstract accounts for the Wonthaggi Cemetery Trust and San Remo Cemetery Trust for the 23-24 financial year. The abstract of accounts is an annual statutory reporting requirement to the Department of Health regarding the financial position and performance for Class B cemetery trusts. Noting that council subsidised the delivery of general maintenance and staffing, the Wonthaggi Cemetery Trust returned a profit of $30,385 and San Remo Cemetery Trust returned a profit of $10,732. It is recommended that council notes the abstract of accounts and nominates 3 trust members to sign the statutory declaration.
Thank you, Ms Pauling. Is there a councillor that'd like to move the recommendation? Councillors? Councillor Rooks, a seconder.
Oh,
Sorry, who was it?
Jeff.
Yep. Thank you, Councillor Ellis. Councillor Rooks.
Thank you, Mayor Lasserve. In the words of Councillor Tessari, this is effectively a procedural matter. They need to present these figures to us, and we need to accept those figures, which I do, and have people sign those figures. So thank you, that's all.
Thank you, Councillor Rooks. Councillor Ellis.
I agree that it is a procedural matter. I'll just say that I drive past the Wonthaggi Cemetery almost every day, and over the last 8 years I've seen a lot of improvement there. I recommend it.
Thank you, Councillor Ellis. Do we have to nominate the councillors that will be doing the signatory? Okay.
The mover, the seconder and the mayor.
Councillor Rooks, are you going to, a part of your moving the recommendation, accept that the mayor and 2 councillors to sign?
Yeah, I see it's in the recommendation at point 3.
Yep. So myself and the deputy mayor would make a suggestion, and a deputy mayor and
And the mover.
the mover.
Did you move that?
David, Councillor Rooks.
I'm comfortable with that.
Thank you. Councillor Holstead, you happy with that? Thank you. Okay. Is there anything further in your closing, Councillor Rooks?
No, nothing further.
Thank you. Put that recommendation to the vote. Those in favour? Thank you. That's carried. So did you get those? 8.6, review of the instrument of delegation. Ms Borley.
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose of this report is to update staff positions within the instrument of delegation from council to staff and instrument of sub-delegation Environment Protection Act 2017 from council to staff. Delegations are appointed to positions, not to people. It's recommended that council adopt the updated instrument of delegation.
I've got a councillor move the recommendation. Councillor Tessari, councillor to second. Councillor Bauer, thank you. Councillor Tessari.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Purely procedural. To adopt the recommendation.
Councillor Bauer.
I echo his words.
Beg your pardon?
I echo his words.
Thank you. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak to the recommendation? No? Councillor Lark.
Yes, I just want to say that it's a little bit more than procedural in that it covers many aspects of the operation of council's delegation to staff. And I would suggest full reading by all councillors at some stage to understand what they're signing off on.
Thank you, Councillor Lark. Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm pleased to say that I've fully read the recommendation and understand my requirements under the Local Government Act and endorse this for approval.
Thank you. Any other councillors wishing to speak to the recommendation? If not, Councillor Tessari, put it
to a vote, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Those in favour of receiving the recommendation? Thank you. That's carried. 8.7, instrument of appointment and authorisation. Ms Borley, please.
Thank you, Mayor. The report recommends that council resolve to appoint the named officer as an authorised officer and approve the execution of the attached instrument of appointment and authorisation.
Thank you, Ms Borley. So, councillor to move the recommendation. Councillor Tessari. A councillor to second. Councillor Lang. Councillor Tessari.
Happy to let you know, Madam Mayor, that I've read this and I'm happy to put it forward as procedural.
Thank you. Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Nothing further.
Nothing further. Any councillors who have anything further to say to the recommendation? If not, councillor Tesari, put it to the vote.
Put it to a vote, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Those councillors in favour of the recommendation? Thank you. That's carried. We move to statutory reports. Could I have a request a councillor to move a motion that we receive agenda items 9.1, 9.2, 9.3 be considered as a block? Councillor Whelan and Councillor Ellis. Is there any councillors wishing to discuss any of the reports?
We've got to move them as a block. We've got to vote on it first, haven't we?
Catching up.
We've got to vote on that.
That's it. So we've got to vote on that we do it as a block first. Those in favour? That we're doing it as a block, thank you. That's carried. If there's any, now we'll do that bit.
Yeah, one more meeting, Madam Mayor.
Talk about a clumsy way of doing it. Anyway, if there's any councillors wishing to discuss the reports.
Here we go.
Yes, Madam Mayor.
See you there. Yep, councillor Lark.
I'd just like to ask Ms Vorley to clarify the contract for the Environmental Health Shared Services Contract Extended Award is close to 1.5 million. I wonder if she could explain why that's acceptable over and above the CEO's normal delegation of $1 million. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lark. Through you, Madam Mayor. Council's adopted procurement policy provides the CEO with unlimited authority for contract variations or extensions, provided the amount is on or within 20% or $100,000 of the budget allocation, whichever is the lower amount.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillors wishing to speak to the recommendation? Okay, I request that the recommendation attached be adopted. Have I got a councillor to adopt it? Councillor Whelan, seconder. Councillor Ellis. Those in favour? Thank you. That's carried. There is no urgent business as item 10. The next council meeting will be held on the 16th of October and here in Wonthaggi at the Civic Centre. So that this meeting will be closed to members of the public pursuant to Section 66 of the Local Government Act 2020 to consider items that deal with council business information, being information that could prejudice the council's position in a commercial negotiation, prematurely released. So I request a councillor to move. Thank you, Councillor Holstead. Seconder. Councillor Lang, thank you. Those in favour? We close the meeting. Thank you. That's carried. Thank you for watching the live streaming today.
Thank you.
The meeting will now be moved to a closed meeting from the public. Thank you. That's the end of the live streaming. Councillor Lang and